Welcome back to the Troubleshooting Life podcast. I'm your host, Jay Peters, my co-host, Craig Poston, where we talk about various topics, sharing our experiences on life and finances.
What's up, man? Not much. Another week as always.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How's things going?
Pretty good, man. Pretty good. This week, we had Memorial Day, so Memorial Day off was pretty nice, having a 3-day weekend. However, it kind of messed up like my workout schedule because I woke up on Monday, and I think we recorded on Monday. So I was planning to go like shoot some hoops in the morning, and I didn't. So I ended up swapping out my schedule. Still shooting hoops a couple times a week, and then I lifted like once or twice during the week. Other than that, still working on those goals, finance goals and stuff, trying to figure out what properties to purchase, where to purchase now, because as Adrian and I are going through the wedding planning process and trying to like map out kind of different events, like when we want to move, when we want to pick up different jobs or whatever it is, just trying to see how we can get that into a timeline or roadmap that fits the circumstances. So
yeah.
But what about you, man?
No, not much. Same thing. Enjoyed that Monday off. Like I said, we got a chance to record. I thought it would be a good day because I didn't have much to do that day. I don't know if I mentioned last time about we're dealing with girls. It was a slumber party, and I had to take them to the movies, arcade, all that. And it was a good time for them. I mean, it wasn't bad for me, but it's just the fact that, you kind of like the chaperone.
Yeah.
So
Little Mermaid.
Yeah, well, I mean, Little Mermaid turned out not to be too bad, So like that was actually pretty good. And I mean, I guess it was a new thing, and I think that's something my wife enjoyed too, because I believe it was something she wanted to do as a kid, never got a chance to, and to be able to get a chance to do that for our daughter was pretty cool, because it was kind of like
host the Girls' Day or Girls' Day out.
Yeah, because it was more of an extension of her birthday. She went somewhere else instead of having a party, so we came up with another idea by having like basically a girls' day out. Yeah, and then a slumber party afterwards. So
that's cool, man. That's really cool, actually.
Yeah, because I'm gonna say I didn't have that too for my birthdays.
Yeah.
It was very, very simple: ice cream cake and pizza, or Popeye's chicken. Something It's very simple. And it's pretty cool to do that, or even at least afford to do the things that we're doing.
Yeah.
Right? So, but besides that, no, that's it. And same as goals, still trying to put goals in the forefront of my mind. I kind of like how we got with this title, because it kind of made me rethink about my goals too.
Yeah.
Think about it in a different way, be a little bit more aggressive, towards meeting them. Versus being so passive and just like kind of planning towards it and making, letting it happen, but just actually sitting down and taking, like the time to think about it. So I might start planning more time alone with myself, just so I can actually sit and think about what's the next move, what is the next plan for the goal. Because sometimes I feel like I'm lost even with goals. And that's a crazy thing to say.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense, because goals can be many things, right? They could just be statements like, I want to be rich. That could be a goal, right? But you don't necessarily have the path forward on how to do that. Like, would it be, should I go work for someone for X amount of years and save up for retirement, and that's how I become rich, right? Should I go start my own business? Should I, create like a service type business where I clean cars? Something simple, right? But, I charge, I do a good job, I charge whatever per person, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
Because there's so many different paths on the goal, the overarching goal of wanting to become wealthier and then become rich. So even if you have those goals, they could also change, right? We work in like an agile type of environment where things change, if not daily, then weekly or monthly. And some of them kind of seem like a Barry Sanders 180 turn on a dime type of thing, where you're going one way, but you have to swap and go the other way. Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of like how life is.
Yeah, no, that is a good statement. Yeah, because things do change, and I mean, and like I said, the other thing too is like keeping that motivation, especially when you have a year long goal, or even not just a year long goal. Sometimes they're longer than that. but keeping the motivation to just keep hitting it or keep going towards it. Because some of these are large where they need to be in bite-sized chunks. And if you, with same thing with Agile, right? Agile teaches you that the main goal is this, but we take these little bites to get us all the way to the end. And you hit them in a fast pace, you know?
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that, because there are like lifelong goals, right? Like most, maybe not most people, some people want to become wealthy, right? Some people want to have good health. Some people want to have good relationships with the people around them, right? But you would have to kind of bring them down into certain frames, as in, what are your short-term, mid-term, long-term goals? What are your, like, what can you accomplish in a month? What can you accomplish in 6 months, for the year, for the next 3 years, for the next 5 years, just to kind of slowly get you to those long goals.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, you know, some of my goals, they should be more lifelong, but then it's like, I'm trying to condense them down to make them where they're hit a lot quicker, especially, you know, the ones you're trying to hit that financial freedom type of thing. And you're trying to come up with ways that how quick can I get there? And obviously, you know, okay, you can add up your expenses now, see what type of income you need to make without actually being part of an employer. You got those things, and then but it's like the goals, some of the goals that to be financially free, you're really, I don't know, I'm trying to say where you're just, it may be over the top. It seems over the top, right? Because of the amount of money you think you might need, you know? Yeah. Because the thing is, you want it to keep producing income even when you're not working. So like you have to come up with ways, kind of like the thing on, it's The Richest Man in Babylon, kind of like how they say how you make your babies have babies, and it's talking about money make money. So like you come up with ways to, like, okay, you put your money in a place that creates new money, or creates income, or creates something else, and then allow that to create another thing. So
yeah, you're saying you're buying a producing asset where you could also reuse that money for.
Yeah, exactly, right. So say if you bought a home strictly for investment property, you had it cash flow, you put the cash flow not only just back into the house, but say if you could buy stocks with that cash flow, right?
Yeah.
Then you're finding other ways to just keep it going. And that's I mean, honestly, that's like one of those plans you have to sit down and think, well, is this the best use of the money? Or is it, because, you know, when you use your cash flow, you need it to really go back into the house to kind of cushion you from the things that happen with homes, normal things like the maintenance that has to get taken care of.
Yeah,
and keep
capital expenses.
Yeah, pretty much keep you from, you know, pulling from your personal funds that you need for emergency or whatever, right? And now you can use this. It's the home is paying for itself.
Yeah, yeah, and then some.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that's kind of like, you know, where I've been trying to get my mindset, you know, on that, you know, and that's why I think, like, even this title, having me research some stuff, that made me think, like, okay, all right, I need to tighten up on what I really want to do with my life. So,
how's that book coming?
Yeah, exactly. And I was thinking about that too. Yeah, I was like, it's like, is it a goal now? Is that a goal later? Like, what is, like, that's what I started. I was, honestly, before we got on today, I was thinking about that. Like, what level of goal? Because that was one thing I when I went to go talk to a financial advisor, right? And you ask the question, hey, where should I put my money? And one of the things, he didn't say it directly, he did it indirectly, and it's basically, what is most important to you? And he didn't say that, but he was like asking me, hey, what do you want to invest in? You want stocks, real estate, you know, business? What do you want to, you know, like, the thing is, what is the most important, and is that should be on the goal list now, or should that be on the goal list later? You know?
Yeah. And I think a lot of them, especially, so for whether it's financial advisors or goal setting and stuff, is that a lot of them trying to get like a risk profile.
Yeah.
As in, like, how much are you willing to focus on growth immediately, to where, yes, it could grow exponentially, or you could lose it fairly quickly. But, you know, that just kind of comes into life as well. As in, like, so investing in stocks may not be as risk heavy as investing in real estate, right?
Yeah.
As in, because you could just, you know, buy fractional shares for, you know, almost pennies on the dollar, and it wouldn't cost you a lot financially. Or buying a property, more likely than not, will cost you a lot of money up front, right?
Yeah.
Where if I could, you know, put into like an IRA or like a 401k, it's in comparison fraction.
Yeah, well, you're talking about the money up front, though, right? When it comes to homes, it's the money up front. I think the long term with a home is better than stocks. Like, because
but I mean, like the risk, as in that house, you could have additional problems with it. The stock or an ETF isn't going to have a lot of problems.
Yeah, the maintenance. Yeah, pretty much the maintenance with your stocks versus maintenance with property. Yeah, you are true with that, because especially if you can go with an ETF, which is actually, what is that, low maintenance fees, and you don't really have someone constantly managing that product. Then it's actually low cost to do it, and that's why some people say, hey, get into ETFs. That's a way to get into investing, so you can see how it feels. Mutual funds, all those. Because honestly, that's why I was saying at one point when we were talking about building credit. One way to build credit is like if you could get money from a credit card or money from a loan where the interest rate made sense, like where you could actually purchase an asset with it, which is paper assets, from that money, and you paid it back either, I won't say through the stock, but you can pay it back maybe from the money that you already, because you're trying to build your credit from money that you're earning from something.
Yeah.
And then that way you're actually doing two things at once. You're building wealth and building credit.
Yeah.
So and that would be one of those low risk type of investments, would be mutual funds and ETFs.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that.
Yeah. But besides that, man, that's I'm telling you, this title, kind of, had me thinking. So that's it. Yeah. So, so the title for this week is Become a Conqueror, Not a Struggler. Yeah. And this is your title. So you want to start us out?
Yeah. And so Become a Conqueror, Not a Struggler. Actually, I think I pulled it from an interview I saw with Nipsey Hussle, like, for, R.I.P. Nip, where he was stating the way he looked at money when he was first receiving it after, he started getting, more record deals and stuff like that, is that a lot of people, they'll go through life, whether they're receiving something or not, and they'll utilize their assets and resources in certain ways, right? So a conqueror would utilize an asset towards building something, where a struggler may use an asset just to consume things, right? As in, like, say I give two people money, right? Let's say I give them like $1,000 each. One person may invest it in stocks, real estate, whatever it is. Another person may just spend it on a liability, something that's depreciating, or something just to have fun, right? Not saying either one is wrong or right. I'm just saying that they have two different goals. One of the conqueror, where they want to produce things for future stuff, whether that's for them, for the future, for their community, for their family. Where the struggler more than likely is just looking at the immediate gratification of spending the money on something that they can have right now.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing, though, when it comes to that struggler mentality. It's kind of hard to fight, especially if you don't come from a background that where you have all this good advice. People will tell you, hey, this is the better way to do it. Yeah. So like to have that mentality can sometimes just be deep rooted, and being able to, listen to people who, have positive influence can help you get out of that type of mindset, environment, or whatever. Because just having the thought of just always wanting to use your money to buy, I guess, what do you call it? Not assets, more like a what's that?
Liability.
Yeah. Liability. But then you can't strictly say they're struggling just because they buy liabilities. Sometimes they've probably made it to that point where they can buy liabilities, right? But that mentality where they keep themselves down, and that's one of those things where they got to uplift themselves, or get around the right people who talk about good things, that like, hey, let's get ahead in life and not always stay the same, or always taking those steps backwards. Yeah. So for that type of mentality, like I said, I was reading something earlier, and I was telling you how it can also mean a little differently. Where it's like you're just stuck there, right? That's just that mentality is like, I'm used to struggling, and it's like that seems like the way of life, and that's why people won't just leave that environment. They won't leave that mindset. Because as you were saying here, it's a pattern. Yeah, it is a pattern, right? Just sometimes that's what I'm glad that it's not a sometimes. I am glad that I've had a chance to move around and see different things. And it kind of breaks you free of what you don't know that's inside of you. Like you actually go somewhere else, you learn something new, you can build a new you. Just even just picking up and leaving, going to a whole nother place, especially if you don't have a lot of personal stuff, like a lot of baggage or whatever, right? Just pick up, leave, go somewhere else. That way you can actually, break yourself free of that same mentality, because you're gonna change who you are because you're develop a new person to adapt to that new environment that you have going on.
Yeah. So in life, we often face challenges and obstacles that can make us feel like we're constantly struggling. However, those are transformative mindset shifts that can empower us to rise above these struggles and become conquerors. By embracing the conqueror mentality, we can approach life with resilience, determination, and a proactive mindset that propels us towards success. So we're going to explore how to transition between being a struggler to becoming a conqueror, and unleash the true potential, I guess, in life or in your mentality.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know if you can just think back of something that you've had to struggle with that, before, or have you always kind of been researching and putting yourself in a different mindset where you knew what you were doing, that you didn't know that you were struggling or just doing the wrong thing?
So, I mean, I've definitely been a struggler before, and to where couldn't pay bills or it was hard to afford certain bills, to where, I never even turned on the AC because it would, run up the electricity bill. Right. So there were times where I was struggling, but I think I've always tried to look for ways out of the struggle and not necessarily trying to find ways to keep myself struggling. I always looked at it as like a temporary thing. I just didn't know. And temporary could be anything, right? A temporary could be a year, could be 5 years, could be 10 years, right? But I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but I knew I was going to do something to get out of that type of situation. And I also tried to focus on not putting myself deeper into a bad situation, as in I don't want to take in more debt that I really couldn't afford because I couldn't afford my own bills, right? I didn't want to take on and I wasn't trying to go for things that would make me feel better in the immediate. Like, I didn't want to go and find like a nicer apartment or get a nicer car or, go out to eat every day. Just like I said, those were things that I couldn't afford. So I wasn't going to try to look like I could afford them or pretend that I could.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and you got to realize sometimes when, with strugglers, right? Sometimes it seems like you're, I guess it's the word, separating yourself from the people who you're around. And that's why it is good to separate for a little while at least, right? So you can see who you are. But the way you're talking about struggling is kind of like, more in a financial sense, right? Where we're like, I am finding ways to save money. I'm finding ways to make sure that I have what I need to get by. All right. Yeah. And I mean, in that sense that is still struggling, right? But when, say, I'm thinking about like when I was a kid, you see people who they could do better in life, right? Or you just see an environment where like they're just people who feel like they're not going anywhere, so they just stay there and they just keep doing the same things. They don't want to leave their people because it feels like they're sellout, or whatever, right? Yeah. But then it's not true, because if you can, make yourself better, then you can be an example to show that you can uplift people. Right? Like, hey, yeah. So you can motivate them to like, oh, well, you did it, yeah. Then I know I can do it. Well, then, let's do it, right? And then you got your people who like it's like nobody they don't want to get better, right? So then they're trying to pull you back down with them.
They're trying to support you.
Yeah, exactly, right. So it's those environments. I mean, those are the roughest environments, and I mean, because you have it literally is the blind leading the blind, right? Nobody is trying to get ahead. And then anytime you see a shred of somebody trying to get ahead, it's like, oh, I got to get you back here. You think you're better than us, Yeah. So
I think a good point to that, and it's kind of the first point here, is recognizing the struggle mentality, whether it's within you or within others that you're around. Like what Craig's saying, it's for the people that are around you. Is that part of becoming a conqueror is to acknowledge the limitations of becoming a struggler. Right? When you're a struggler, you tend to view yourself as a victim, or the people around yourself, they tend to view themselves as victims, where they're always overwhelmed by certain challenges and setbacks, whether it's financial or that's in your relationships or stuff like that. People may feel helpless, they may feel like they're lacking control of their circumstances and they're stuck. But if you recognize these patterns and you kind of acknowledge that these are bringing you down, it'll slowly break you free of that struggle. It's kind of like when you realize that you're overweight and the first thing you do is hit the scale to actually, acknowledge, hey, yes, I am overweight. There's this natural occurrence. I think there's been a few studies on it where people that weigh themselves are more likely to lose weight than people that are not.
Yeah, that's that more like tracking it, right? That if you track it, then
It gets
you'll fall. Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah. So, but no, that's true. Because I mean, I was letting myself slip where I didn't weigh myself, but then I could also feel something's different about myself. But that's only because if you're a person who constantly works out, you can feel the body changes versus say someone who doesn't really work out, they just think it's part of life, so they let it go. Yeah. But
after you're able to recognize the struggler mindset, I think starting to embrace the conqueror mindset would be like the next thing, and is our next point. And then so adopting a new mindset that empowers you rather than breaks you down or breaks down the people around you. And instead of seeing challenges as they are as challenges or problems, see them as opportunities for growth and change, right? So say something at work, like say someone quits and now you have to take over their responsibilities, right? That's an opportunity. It is pain for the short term, but it is an opportunity to show your employer that, hey, yes, I can take on more responsibilities. I can do mine and their job. So when it comes up for like performance evaluations or for raises, you may get one to cut above the rest, but it also proves to you that you're not only bound to the stuff that you are told to do. You can do other things, not necessarily that you have to, but you can do other things. And then you can either take that to your current employer or to other employers saying, hey, I am able to do this amount of stuff. And at some point you could then train, teach, or lead other people to do that stuff. And then if you become resilient, refuse to let certain challenges kind of define you, and then taking proactive steps. So like Craig was saying, just thinking about your life, thinking about like what goals you want to do, if those goals are still valid, reassessing all that, facing adversity head on, and then remaining steadfast and keep going on that perpetual pursuit to success.
For me, my personal life, that's how I see challenges. Think about it. I'm gonna come out knowing something more than I did before, versus like seeing this as a setback, seeing this as this is preventing me from my happiness or whatever it is, right? If I can go through it and finish, succeed at it. I mean, even if I don't succeed, guess what? I still learned something new out of that process. I'll say that the Army helped me develop that one, that muscle. I don't think I had that strong muscle when I was younger. When I went to the military, a lot of times you're getting told to finish, even if you're, if you're doing a bad job, right? Yeah. That's the mentality that they have, is like it has to get done. So, and then that even if you're struggling, right, you just muddle through that, and you see what it looks like on the backside of it, because the backside might not be as bad. And that's the same way how I looked at deployments. And I say deployments, I only deployed once, but when I was deployed, knowing that you can't leave, right, you had to finish it. And yes, it sucked at times, but then when I got back, it didn't seem as bad, even though it was. Because the fact is, I finished it. Yeah. I got back home. I enjoyed family time. We had days off. It was extra money coming in, things like that. But things got better on the back end, because it also told me, it taught me something. It told me that I could do a lot more than what I think. A lot of things are mental. And then as the same, I was like, I got a chance to pay off bills after coming back. So again, like when it comes to, that I'm going to make it through, like that is the best way. Cause like I learned something in the end, and that's why I don't quit, immediately when when it gets bad. It's because I want to see how it's going to turn out. When I realize it doesn't benefit me anymore, that's when it's time to quit.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think also, so following on like the other topics and stuff, or the other points, like shifting your perspective can really help you become like the conqueror. So, and I think that's what, the deployments really did for you, is that, you had a certain life with your family. You had to be removed from that life and be away from them. While it's not, for a long time, or no, I can't say that long time. It's not forever. It's not permanent. It's still a temporary amount of time. Going through it still sucks. It's not comfortable. It's not, really building or helping you build your family at that point. But, when you come back, have a certain appreciation, right? So your perspective kind of swaps to where, man, this sucks. But when you come back, you're like, well, it was still a good experience because now I have a different appreciation for life.
Yeah, that was exactly how it was. Because I saw how bad it can be.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was the same thing too when I think I might have mentioned before on one of the other podcasts how I went to the field, and to me it didn't even feel bad anymore. Like I used to hate going to the field, and when I came back from deployment, I was like, "Cool, let's go to the field." Yeah, that's just how I felt about it. I mean, in the military, or say the Army, right? When you go to the field, sometimes you're either sleeping on the ground or you're sleeping in hot tents or sleeping on a truck. And then you still wake up the next day to do your training or do whatever you were set out there to do. And a lot of times we're trying to make it in a deployment environment. So you're basically creating the same things that you would create in your normal environment, your office environment. So you try to build that same environment in a remote site, usually the woods, and then you try to run operations the same exact way. So like all that became easier when I came back. Yeah, it definitely, how I looked at things, I looked at them a whole lot different. It was because you do appreciate life, especially when you see that other people can lose their life while they're there. And if they don't lose their life, they're badly hurt when they come back home.
Yeah. In addition to that is that you're there, typically not necessarily by yourself, but with other people that are in the same other situation where they don't have their families around them, right? You're all there for, whatever mission that you're there for, but things are still going on at home that you also don't have control of, right? Like, your kids could be getting sick, there could be some financial problems over there. Unfortunately, some family members could be passing. And on top of the stressors already of being in a deployment area or being forward deployed, those other stressors, they still exist. They don't go away, and it just kind of adds on to it. But if you're ever able to be one of those ones that actually, makes it back, you're good in good mental health and stuff, then it creates a, like Goggins says, the callousing around your mind, or which is, what's called cultivating resilience, which is another point on here. What resilience is it's the backbone of being the conqueror mindset. It's the ability to bounce back from failures or setbacks, and then to develop resilience by embracing failure as a stepping stone to success, and then learning from mistakes, learning to adapt, learning to persevere past those setbacks. And then when you're able to have a network of support, being able to surround yourself with those people or those group of people that will help you kind of get through those moments.
Yeah, no, yeah. Even on that last statement right there, that's definitely true. We call it in the Army, embrace the suck. So like everyone is dealing with the same thing. That's like end up being like your new family. In a sense that your brother, sister, mom, dad. They're basically everyone's in it together. I mean, yeah, you're gonna have your ones that you got your complainers. They're gonna, this is the worst thing ever. Yeah, I mean, possibly is. But the thing is, you don't let it seep into your brain as being the worst thing ever, because it may not be the worst thing that you're going to experience for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
Right. So, it's just, but having that network of people. And I remember even when I was getting ready to get off active duty, I remember the man that was in charge of me, because it was a civilian, wasn't a green suiter. The man was in charge of me. He was letting me know that when you leave, you're going to probably want to be around people like you. So you want to get with a network. He was like, join a church, join some type of group, something, so you can have, the people around you, because that's one of the things that you have in the military. You have all these people around you all the time. And then when you leave, you don't, your life isn't, and he didn't mention this, but I can tell you this, life isn't as exciting, outside of being on active duty. I mean, it's a good and a bad thing, because that takes away some of the stress in your life. But then it's like one of those things that you miss, right? It's a fast-paced environment. You're getting forced to be healthy, because they're telling you, make sure you keep your weight at a certain standard. They're telling you, make sure you work out. They're telling you to get educated. They're telling you that, hey, you need to advance. And you have all this behind you all the time. And then when you leave, you don't have that anymore. And it's like, But the thing is that since you develop that, you develop that callus, right? You learn how to get through all these challenges. You can still apply that to your life, right? So that the resilience, that easily to adapt. Hey, things don't go good, so I'm gonna fail, And yes, sometimes I do lose altogether, where I've lost money, right? But guess what? Money comes back, and then you can find a better way to invest it the next time.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. And then continuing with like our points and stuff, the part of becoming a conqueror is also setting meaningful goals. So we kind of talked about it earlier, where sometimes our goals are lifelong goals. Sometimes our goals are very short term and stuff that we can kind of knock out really quickly. But however long they are, it doesn't really matter. It's just that as long as we're setting like clear and meaningful goals that also assign with or align with your passions and values. And I think that's another thing is before you kind of start setting up goals is to really identify, who you are, what you're passionate about, and what your values are, so that when you come with a goal that it doesn't contradict what those are, what those values or passions are. So say if your goal is to get money, right? But of course, there's many different ways to get money. People could deal drugs, right, to get money. I'm not here to knock on people's, hustles or anything, but if that is against your values, then you're going to have a tough time, or you're going to have a lot more stressors internally to get towards that goal, right? And I think as we said, if you break down your goals to smaller goals and, make more achievable steps, it'll kind of lead you to an easier path or quicker path on becoming a
Yeah, that was again, because of this title, it made me look deeper. And that was definitely it, trying to set those meaningful goals. Like, why am I doing this? Why do I want to do this? Like, where do you think you're going to be in the next 3 to 5 years, 10 years, whatever, right? Should your goals be directed towards that, or should you, what I'm saying? Again, just hit smaller goals and get going.
Yeah.
Because I was like reading stuff on like, about the same thing, right? Having these concise goals, focus on exactly what you really want to do. And then like once you get to that point, you got to commit to it, right? You got to commit hard. I think even, I think it was Think and Grow Rich. That book, that was one of those things where like when you have that true belief, you don't allow anybody to steer you off your path, which that's going to happen in life, right? So you set the goal, you say that's where I'm going, and then you commit hard, and that's where you go, and you're going to say, hey, this is where I want to be, and this is where I'm going. And I think that's the whole point about Think and Grow Rich is basically it's a mindset thing. It's like, hey, think your way rich. It was really talking about, pretty much not accepting defeat. So like you're basically you're full-hearted in what you're trying to do in life. And then when you get ready to take action on those goals, that after you made that commitment, it's all uphill from there. So you're no matter what gets in your way with adversities, you're gonna fight to win towards that goal. Then I guess you have to be mindful of people, right? Like you can't treat your family wrong, which or other people wrong, which that happens. Yeah. Some people are so steadfast on getting to where they need to go that they stumble over people, and that they're good people in their life.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And one of the reasons why I kind of promote people figuring out who they are, what they want, and what their values are, is because when you know who you are, other people cannot tell you who you are, right? As in, you could still be on a journey to make money, and there's all these different ways of the get rich quick schemes. Right. And, a lot of people will fall for them. A lot of people, whatever it is, if it's like a conference or whatever it is, like a course, where they actually don't help build you. It's just a way for other people to get rich quick, and not necessarily you. That if you knew who you are, you're going to be like, well, that's not what I'm working on right now. So even if I could get rich quick right now, I realize that it's not going to be sustainable for me because it doesn't match who I am at the moment. Right. So it would really prevent you from making certain choices that you wouldn't agree with if you knew who you were.
Yeah, that's a true statement, man.
As Craig was saying, so embrace the journey. So the last point on this is, remember that becoming a conqueror is a journey. It's not something that's really quick. It's not going to happen overnight. It's probably not going to happen within a month or a year, right? There is a process that you kind of have to learn to enjoy, just like how if you were to work out, if you're on that journey of making money, it's a long time. It's not something that's just given to you, and it's not something that you can just sustain in a short term. But embrace and enjoy that. It takes time to get into shape. It takes time to become incredibly wealthy. It takes time to get all those goals that you have sought out for yourself. And I think that's what makes it worth it, is because it takes that time, that investment of resources to really achieve something that you're going for.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a journey, right? Like I said, everything you do in life, is going to be some type of journey. Like I said, I'll tell people, I'll even tell, like I said, I went to talk to on career day, and the one thing is, like, everything you got to do, you have to work hard at it. It doesn't matter what it is, right? I didn't talk about the journey, but the journey is all part of it, because that is part of your growth. If you were to take that away, you might not have all the experiences that you need, right? The ones that you've learned how to create. Because if you go off of somebody else's experiences in life, right, it might not apply to you exactly. So like that taking that journey, or it's just accepting the challenge, right? Just accepting that challenge for the journey is a big step. And I know it's some, because I've listened to, other things on YouTube or whatever, where they don't believe in a journey. They believe in a straight path. Yeah. I mean, yes, straight path does get you there, but then will you sustain it? Not without support, at least, right? You won't sustain that path without somebody else helping you supplement some of the ideas, because you didn't create some of these ideas on your own there, or you didn't experience these ideas or experience these situations, which again, it's, if you think about it with business, right? We don't experience everything. So that's why you pay somebody else to help you out with their experiences, because that's what they do. Yeah. Same for real estate, right? You're not gonna do everything for the home. Now, if you can, that's great. But then if you're trying to balance books, you're trying to do the renovations, you're trying to do the plumbing, everything, right? You're trying to make sure everything is good to go. It may be a little hard for a single person.
Yeah.
And then when you reach out to other people, they know an easier way. I mean, I'll take that to, like, reaching out to a property manager. Save me, in my mind, tons of money, because they helped me figure out that I didn't need that, and there was an easier way to do it, and it was a cheaper cost. So,
yeah.
But I mean, not to get too far off about embrace the journey, but that was part of the journey, was learning that there are other people out there, there's other ideas. And then also, when I experienced it myself, I also know I have a little bit more knowledge about what's going on. So you can't get cheated, right? If you experience something and someone else tried to tell you something else, you can tell them, no, that's not necessarily true. You may be on the right track, but you know what I'm saying? But maybe if we try this, it'll be better, right?
Yeah. No, I think the part of the embracing the journey is that you're not going to be alone during the journey. And it is your goal, and it's something that you're trying to do for yourself or whatever, for whomever it is, right? But like you said, there are people that can help you along the way, right? Like you, for example, to properly, like you said, there's real estate agents, there's property managers, there's contractors, there's all these other people that are going to be part of that journey to help you in your goal of, let's say, being wealthy or having assets.
Yep. Yeah. And we're trying something different now, huh? It's called This Week in Finance. We may come up with or technology or real estate. We're going to come up with different articles each week to talk about, which is actually, I think, just us adjusting as we keep trying to perfect our product, our podcast, right? Which will probably never be perfect. So we're just going to keep trying. Yeah. And we're going to look for new ideas, and hopefully we can get comments in the comment section about ways that you think that we could do better. But as of right now, I think we have a technology article.
Yeah. So this one is, so we'll do with This Week in Tech. This one's from BBC. So this one is specifically on powerful artificial intelligence ban possible. Government advisor warns. I believe this is specifically in the UK or EU on how to ban certain AI. So, for example, OpenAI and ChatGPT, for those that aren't aware, are machine learning and AI engines that allow you to search in a specific way and receive specific results. So kind of like how you would do on Google, but if you don't want, X amount of articles and stuff like that, you could get one specific answer for your problem. So if you say, how to make a, cake, right? On Google, it'll show you, 10,000, however many articles there are about how to make a cake. If you were to ask a platform like OpenAI's ChatGPT, it'll give you exactly, not necessarily exactly, but as in detail as you want for that question. But what they're trying to do now is kind of restricted. So the government in general is always adverse to a lot of newer things, unless it's, homegrown by them that they've produced themselves. So this one is wanting to reduce the use of AI for government type of jobs and government type of tasks. And I think it's because OpenAI and all these other companies, they're not government, right? They are receiving information. And if you're providing information on government type things that could, validate certain or make certain stuff like NDAs or non-disclosure agreements invalid, it could make other people aware of what is going on in the government that other people shouldn't be aware. And it's also not like these companies are specified to a specific country, right? So they don't have a certain elite, like, so for example, if it's the American government and you start talking about American government stuff and this stuff isn't hosted in America, just like how things like in TikTok or Slack or other technologies that a lot of companies use or a lot of people use are slowly getting banned, is because of who is hosting and who is pushing out certain information.
Yeah, I don't think that's a good thing. I mean, I think it's a good thing. Using some new technology, right? But yeah, when it comes to governments, each government's separate, right? And if we were using it actually in our everyday processes, may become a problem, because as we learn in security, you don't have to give up critical information to make critical information. All it takes is pieces, right? You take a little piece at a time, and you can build a piece of critical information. And that's what we get taught, even military, right? Just understand what you're saying, what you're doing can cause problems somewhere else. Yeah, good. So I mean, if you start using that to help you form your schedules, right, and help you with talking about certain things that we use all internal, and it's going to get reported, because that is how AI works. It's constantly intaking data, processing it, and using it for the next time basically it's educating itself. It's like it's a human robot, right? It basically is because what we do is we take in information, we process it a certain way, but this is a new experience that we learn, and it's the same thing for AI technology. So that won't be a little rough to use that in everyday processes for the government. Yeah, and I didn't get a chance to read down the whole article, so
most of it, they also had like a white paper about what decisions they're making, but they're not necessarily doing like a full ban. It's more like they're restricting use of how it can be used, as in, like I said, it shouldn't be used for government type work. Should it be used? And another thing that they were having a problem with is that it can cause a unfair competitive advantage, as in with certain information now out there, and now that everyone's pulling from a certain pool of information, it may limit what they can provide. When, say, if people are doing contracts for the government, if they're requesting certain funds, if they're requesting support, they could all kind of be washed into the same thing. And another thing is that they feel that with all these companies like OpenAI and a few of the other companies coming out, that being bid on for AI specific type of contracts could get monopolized by one company, kind of like how Microsoft or AWS, if they were to have the entire control of all the U.S. contracts on technology, then that would be a monopoly. Right now, we are highly dependent or too dependent on one type of company or product. So to reduce that and to make it a little bit more competitive, they would put bans on what companies can bid on what.
Yeah, no, that would make sense, because and also, I mean, for to depend on one company in general just makes it a single point of failure. Because what if someone gets word of that is how it works, and find out exactly the location and takes out that location, then now you just you pretty much cut off, that source to whoever that is, right? Yeah. If it's government or anybody, right? Just and that's why monopolies are bad, because one of the price gouging for one, but being a single point of failure, if something was to go down, that also it disrupts the economy, or disrupts that company or that government or whoever it is that's using it.
Yeah.
So I could definitely see trying to try to hash that out first, and then I think the competitive advantage, where I guess are we talking about people who, so say someone works for a company and using AI technology, or are we talking about competitive advantage in another way?
So I think it has it in a few different ways. The way I think it states it is more towards companies using it for their competitive advantage, but I can also see it being used as in where we were saying, where it can't be a sole source or one company type of thing.
Well, I don't think it's a big deal for a company as a whole to use it, as a competitive advantage. It's more individual, right? If an individual is solely depend on something else, something like that technology, what can they do on their own if they're not provided? You know what I'm saying? They're not provided that type of technology. Obviously in our environment, you could end up in an area by yourself with no computer in sight besides the one that you're working on. And so you have no access to the outside world, but guess what you have to rely on is yourself and what you've learned so far, versus pretty much using the technology to do everything for you.
Yeah.
I still think it's a good product. I still think it's a good thing to use because it helps in learning. Because think about it, if I can, cut down my time searching for whatever I'm looking for by actually stating exactly what I need and get that, then I just reduce my time in searching, and now I can just get to reading and doing my own little research, instead of just doing the research for searching instead.
Yeah.
So that's a pretty cool article. And we're gonna try to do more of these and probably get more of our different segments in here. But we're all trying to improve the Troubleshooting Life podcast. Yeah. So all right, guess we're gonna get out of here. All right. Thank you everyone for listening. This is Craig and Jay signing off the Troubleshooting Life podcast. We'll see you next week. Please like and subscribe.
We'll see you next week.